Think Steelers and Ravens this week, and we have a World Series that, for those of us who love baseball, it has lingered a little longer. I know Alan McCallum does not mind that one iota, although I'm rooting against the Cubs, so as long as they lose in the end, all will be well in my world, Alan. But impressive victory by the Cubs, I think, on Sunday night to sort of extend this thing. They were circling the drain there midway through Game 5 on Sunday night.
Yeah, look, there's no question that the Indians have taken a commanding lead in the series, and every win is a must-win for the Cubs now. John Lester came up big, and so did Aroldis Chapman. It was certainly a pitcher's duel. Maybe I think it's the 1-0 game, and this have been the two true pitcher's duels. And now they have their two other aces in Arrieta and Hendricks to fall back on. Both games that the Indians have lost have been pitched by Bauer, so they're hoping that Josh Tomlin can recreate the magic that he had in Game 3. But yeah, it's certainly series is not over, but it shifts to Cleveland for Games 6 and 7 if needed. And the one really saving grace that the Indians have is that if it does go to 7, they've got Kluber, and the Cubs really haven't been able to figure him out yet.
Alan, you love baseball. I love baseball. We sit around, we wait. This is pretty good. I mean, I don't. In most World Series every year, there's always good players. There's always the best teams. There's always some storyline in one way or another. Kansas City's been a wonderful storyline. San Francisco's been a wonderful storyline. They've all been pretty good. This is this is better than your average cracker, I'd say, right? I mean, I would say this is this has been a little bit special. And if it goes to 7. This could move into that next category of very, very memorable. Look, let's be honest. If we're talking about a Cleveland parade right now, and I don't know, Lindor hit a home run in the 8th or the 9th, because I mean the game was that close on Sunday night. I mean, the Indians had threatened. The Indians had runners in scoring position. They couldn't push it across. They didn't really get the big hit in the game that the Cubs had earlier in the game, and certainly the big inning that they had. But if this thing goes 7 games, we'll be talking about this one as a classic, and so many storylines from the history of baseball. But more than that, I think from managerial and strategical and tactical maneuverings of bullpens, relief pitchers, starting pitchers, one team employing a 3-man, the other team employing a 4-man, and both of these managers already thought to be sort of geniuses to begin with, right?
Yeah, so you point out a really big thing. I think if the casual observer looks at the series, there are only 2 games, the one on Sunday night and the 1-0, that look like they were nail biters. But even in the games where the scores were a little more separate, there were big moments, from pitching strategy to big hits, surprising hits. The number 9 hitter hitting 2 home runs to start it off, and the kind of thing that have really defined the series so far. So even in the games where the final result doesn't look nail biting, there were things as a baseball fan to really be invested in. Certainly, I would say Terry Francona. It's funny. I think Terry Francona has done both a good job and a questionable job in Game 4 when he sends Andrew Miller out for 2 innings in a game where they're up by 6. I didn't really get that. Now, I get if he's warming up in the bullpen that you're going to use him, but for 2 innings didn't make a lot of sense to me. Other than that, I think Terry Francona through this entire postseason has done a really, really quality job handling his pitching staff and his bullpen. I mean, just as you said, consider the fact that they've really only had 2.5 starters through the entire postseason. Trevor Bauer's fingers finally sort of gotten going here in the World Series. And they had to turn to a kid that literally started 1 game in the major league.
I love that kid, by the way. I love the story. I watched that game out in Vegas 2 weeks ago. I love the post-game press conference with him. I wanted to see him pitch again. I mean, yeah, obviously Francona didn't.
I mean, I understand that it's hard to get into the World Series and turn it over to a kid, but they turned it over to him against the Blue Jays in the ALCS. So I would have preferred it too, but the logic is simple that if you throw Merritt, then you keep Kluber from being set up for Game 7. So you want him for 4, you want him from 7, even on short rest. that's the theory that the only one that really makes sense to me. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen him too. Certainly couldn't argue with the job he did in the ALCS, and it would have been interesting to see what he did against a young and I won't say free swinging, but a team that fights against being free swinging in the Cubs would have been an interesting. He would have been an interesting opponent for a club like that.
We are chatting with Alan McCallum. He is our longtime baseball historian, Oriole insider, and World Series aficionado, a fellow baseball fan. Interesting time for the Ravens to have their bye weekend this weekend. I got a chance to really hunker down and watch this a little bit. And, as far as a rooting interest, I find myself rooting kind of hard for the Indians. I just do. And, I was rooting for them to end it on Sunday night. And that's where I was. And that's all based on my tour last year and whatnot. But the one thing I've seen, and I know we haven't talked a lot this week about these teams. We talked a lot about the Indians this summer when they played the Orioles. Just how many star players, how many guys I think 10 years from now we're going to look back and talk about Lester and Arrieta and Hendricks and Kluber and Lindor and Bryant and Russell and Rizzo. And, there are a lot of good baseball players in this World Series, and I think a lot of them are young. A lot still have, someone in here has the game-winning hit to win the World Series in them. I don't know who it is, but I tell you what, postseason has raised Baez stock, it's raised Lindor stock, Rizzo. All the way around. I think this has been good for baseball.
Oh, no question. Look, we know about the star power the Cubs have. Frankly, Major League Baseball has been pimping them all summer as the next great thing, and rightly so, they are. Bryant, Rizzo, Javier Baez, and Jake Arrieta, John Lester. You go right up the list. They have a ton of star power, and the Cleveland Indians are a little more unknown. But Lindor and Kipnis, I think, are possibly the next Trammell and Whitaker. Really quality hitters, a very good defensive up the middle in the diamond. Mike Napoli isn't a star, but you look at Mike Napoli since Mike Scioscia, who's often labeled a genius, gave him away, and all he's done is go to places and win. He's spent a lot of time in the postseason, spent a lot of time in the World Series. He's certainly an ingredient to that Cleveland Indians club that's not a star, but you look at him and say, that's the guy you want on your winning team. Their best hitter, as I said before, has barely played the season, is not in the postseason, in Michael Brantley. And you look at the other guys. Coco Crisp is another guy that just sort of shows up in the postseason and gets big hits. And the rest is just sort of a platoon workman-like team that has good at bats. And knows how to catch the ball.
These teams really do. They have good at bats.
Yeah.
Their pitchers work edges in every way. They play the game kind of cleanly. These were the two best teams, and it's kind of hard to argue that now. I'm liking everything about this. I'm looking forward to Game 6. I wish it were over, but I'm happy there's Game 6. And if somehow Arrieta goes out there and looks like the 15 Arrieta and goes 7 1/3, and we wind up in Game 7, I'm not going to complain about great baseball. I'll tell you that.
No question. And look, here's the thing we haven't talked about: star players. The Cubs get Kyle Schwarber back, and we saw what kind of difference he made in their lineup. It deepens it. There's another good at bat. So it's going to get harder for the Cleveland Indians, even though they're going back home. But look, you're talking about good at bats, and just to throw in the Orioles. You look at the teams that have won the World Series, have gotten to the World Series in the last 5, 6, 7 years, and I will show you teams that more often than not consistently you look at, let's say, 4 or 5 guys in the lineup on a given night, and you say, that guy, maybe he doesn't have a good at-bat there, but he knows how to have a good at-bat, and are going to work pitches, foul pitches off, look to do something more than hit home runs. And I've said this to you for a few years now. I said it to you before the season started for the Orioles. I'll say it again. This team is built for the regular season and sort of the match them all. But you want this team to go deeper into the postseason. We saw it in that wild card game. You look to teams like the Indians and the Cubs who are going to have good at bats. And when people were writing off the Indians before they played a game in the World Series. I didn't believe that was the case, and largely because I've watched these guys, particularly through the postseason. have these kinds of at-bats. And that's how you win games against great pitching. And the blueprint for how to beat the Cubs was forged for them against the Red Sox and the Blue Jays, two of the best offenses in the American League. And
if the Indians win this thing, which we still kind of, I mean, they've gone through a nice little machine gun rotation here, right? I mean, they've played good baseball teams and had to play well to beat them.
There is nobody that would be able to deny this as a fluke or they got lucky. They are running the gauntlet. And as of right now, they are 27 outs away from getting the grand prize.
And then on top of that, all the injuries they've had. It's insane.
They're two of their best starting pitchers have not started a game. As we said, a kid that made one major league start started a game for them in the postseason. And their best hitter they're flying the missing man formation for him now. So there is no question that if the Indians do complete this thing and win it, they will be an amazing story that earned every inch of what they've gotten out of the postseason. And frankly, whether they win it or not, they've been an incredible story. They really have.
Alan, I want to take this off the field. I don't, usually go this direction, but the Chapman thing, given what a hot potato he was in the offseason, and Cincinnati couldn't wait to give him away.
Sure.
L.A. wanted him. He winds up in New York. Now he winds up potentially holding the ball in Game 7. Certainly, he was the key figure in Game 5. You really want to break it down. I mean, no disrespect to Lester, but, the game was on the line in the end. There were base runners, one mistake, one fastball that's a little too fast, that hangs a little bit too much, especially against a dangerous hitting team like the Indians. Why is Chapman not a hot potato in the Ray Rice kind of way?
Talent cures all ills, right? I mean, look, we've seen players in every sport who have questionable personalities and histories, but as long as they're great, teams can live with that. Ray Rice, it doesn't have a job in the NFL because when Ray Rice made a mistake or did something criminal, however you see it, he was on the downside of his career. But the number of guys that are in the NFL still playing that in the last few years have been in similar situations, maybe not a video that goes viral, but are clearly in the same situation. They're still playing because they have great talent. And it's no different. Aroldis Chapman was a hot potato, not because people didn't know that he had talent, but with so much of the hot button on domestic violence and questionable personalities.
And rightfully so, by the way.
No question about that. To go into a season with that was a tricky thing. Now, the Yankees are a team that have the kind of clout in the pinstripes. What's the old adage? The Yankees won so many games because the pinstripes got in everybody else's eyes, basically, and blinded them. The Yankees have enough cachet that they can say, hey, we're in New York, we're the Yankees, whatever. And then when he continued to succeed the way he has, and with teams really starting to discover, from the Kansas City Royals to the San Francisco Giants, not in 16, but in the other previous iterations of them that won the World Series, et cetera, that bullpens are more important now in the game of baseball than they ever have been. Having a difference maker that you don't have to pay for an extended period of time or deal with, frankly. If you don't want him, he's gone because he's a free agent at the end of the season. It made sense to rent this guy, and then you decide what you want to do with him after. He's probably going to be crazy expensive for a team like the Cubs, who are going to have to pay a lot of guys. So I don't know that I see him staying with them beyond this season.
Well, I'll tell you what, Madden went all in on him in Game 5, and when it really mattered, right, when it really mattered, when everything was on the line, Buck Showalter chose Ubaldo Jimenez, and when it really mattered, Joe Madden chose to go to Chapman and go incredibly early. If that would have blown up and there would have been a 3-run home run in the 9th inning, it would have been, well, he doesn't do this. It's not what he does. I don't think it's not what they can or can't do. Greg Olson, the Otters, one of my buddies, had on Twitter and Facebook, and he was live tweeting, welcome to the 1980s. This is, the way it used to be in the 7th inning. They bring Sammy Stewart in, and, he throw 38 pitches and try to get 7 or 8 outs, right?
Tippy Martinez got more than 3 outs on a regular basis for the Orioles. So, yeah, look, I mean, it's different in the postseason. They don't play tomorrow, and when you're playing, for 13 games straight on any regular basis, or for 10 days straight, and you've got to use every pitcher in your bullpen and every one of your 5 starters, it's a different game. And in the postseason, there is no tomorrow. There's probably not going to be a tomorrow. So, hey, Aroldis, I don't know if you're going to be with us next year or not, but I'm going to throw you out there until your arm falls off, because you're my best option, and we're trying to win for the first time in 108 years. It makes all the difference in the world.
Alan McCallum joining us here. He's Alan at WNST.net. All right, so who's going to win? I mean, you still think the Indians are going to win this thing and finish it off? I mean, they better finish it off on Tuesday night. I don't know if you want to come back on Wednesday.
I believe the Indians are going to win. Look, they've lost both of Bauer's starts for a reason. And he didn't get blown out. He had a bad ending, gave up 3 runs. But the way to beat the Chicago Cubs is to pitch them backwards, to get them off their timing thrown off with breaking balls, and sneak the fastballs in when you can. And Bauer's a young guy who likes his fastball. And you watch the home run and the sac fly. He threw Ross like 6 fastballs in a row. He was going to hit one of them. I mean, it was pretty clear, and he did it because he got into a tough count. But if Tomlin can do what he did in Game 3 and execute pitching backwards to the Cubs, they can win. And frankly, if they get to Game 7, I mean, it's Hendricks against Kluber, and it's hard to bet against Kluber at this point. He's been fantastic. So, yeah, I mean...
But the rest is short, though, you must admit. I mean, it's a little different.
Question. But the rest is short, but the pressure is big on at this point on the Cubs. Certainly on the Indians as well. But right now the Cubs do have their backs against the wall, and this is a young club, and this was the thing that I was always a little concerned about in terms of people sort of anointing them. It's young clubs that they have a lot of talent that are used to swinging big. Sometimes they can get caught up, and they can be pitched to as talented as they are. And again, it's different in the postseason when you're facing the best, and they can hit their spots and execute consistently, as opposed to on the day 27 of a season, and you're facing the 5th starter who is struggling. I mean, it's different from adrenaline to talent in this stretch, and it's hard to go against Kluber. So, yeah, I mean, if the Cubs walk away with a World Series title, I mean, I don't know that it would shock anybody. But if you're asking me, do I still think the Indians have the advantage at this point to win it all? I don't know how you couldn't say they don't.
Let the Cubs fans suffer a little longer. Once it's over with, the Orioles will name a new pitching coach, and we will have off-season hot stove. And, hey, by the way, a baseball winter meeting's being held right here in Maryland in a couple of weeks, right?
There's a lot to do for a lot of clubs. It's funny. The free agents, it's not what you call a bumper crop of free agents, but there's some key guys on clubs. Certainly the Orioles, I mean, from Pedro Alvarez to Mark Trumbo to Matt Wieters. I mean, there's some key guys that they will either lose or retain that will set a tone for what direction this team goes in. They don't have a lot of young guys that you want to turn to, but they got a couple. And if you're going to completely shut them out, then one, it sends your payroll into the astronomical level again. It keeps them from being able to flourish as young players trying to find their way. And maybe more importantly, it doesn't allow you to change the dynamic of this offense and how they approach at bats, which is something they desperately need to do, Nestor. I'll say again, I would let Mark Trumbo go, not because he didn't have a great year for them, but they need to make room for a guy that can actually get on base and worry about having good at bats somewhere. And right now, right field looks like the one spot to do that. Whether it be Chance Sisco taking over either at the start of the season or at some point late in the season next year, and maybe one or two other guys. I mean, that they have some decisions they have to make from payroll to talent, and how they're going to bring guys along, and how they're going to shake some things up in a lineup that desperately needs a new approach.
He is Alan McCallum, Alan at WNST.net. We will be watching the World Series all week. And, of course, Luke's on the backfields out in Owings Mills for all things Ravens and Steelers. Big invitation, everyone out there that's followed my wife's journey and her 2 battles with leukemia. The man who saved her life twice is coming to Baltimore this week, so we're kind of excited about that. We will be honoring him on his birthday next Saturday on the 12th anniversary, Chris Pier 5. Come on down, have some dinner with us, have some drinks. Say hello to Niels from Witten, Germany. And we're going to talk some football with him around here before the week is over as well. Anything you miss, you can find in the bio Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Big thanks to biotoyota.com for that. Morning newspaper ships at 7 a.m. every morning to your email inbox. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And with the holidays and the cookie-eating season ahead, you need some Planet Fitness. Last but never least, any breaking news that happens, including Orioles pitching coach, Ravens injury updates all week, you get those first on the WNST Tech Service. It is our best service. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here on Thursday, driving you home, getting you ready for the Ravens and the Steelers. Bye week out, World Series in. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net AM 1570, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.